Just go ahead and make yourself comfortable. And close the eyes and allow yourself to just relax, letting go. This is your time. There's nothing you have to do right now. Give yourself the permission to allow the mind to relax, to let go of the thoughts, and just know that the brain will produce thoughts. That's what it does. It's a good sign that you're alive. And bring your attention to your breath and start to notice the breath. And any time that a thought comes into the mind, bring your attention back to your breath. Relax. Breathe. I'd like for you to imagine that you are growing roots out of your feet. And those roots are stretching down into the ground. And if you could imagine also that you were growing roots out of the base of your spine, reaching into the ground. And those roots are extending down through the topsoil, down into the dirt, into the hard earth, traveling around rocks, boulders buried deep within the ground, traveling around old debris, reaching down toward the center of Mother Earth, reaching down, down, down through the underground streams, down through large chunks of mineral deposits, through huge caverns of large crystalline structures, reaching down to the center of Mother Earth. Reaching down, growing down, down, down through the underground caverns, down through the underground lakes and underground rivers, reaching down to the center of Mother Earth. And when those roots reach the center of Mother Earth, whatever that looks like for you, they find something to embrace, to hold on to connect to. You are a child of this great mother, like a tree, your roots stretching down. And just like the heart of a tree, open your own heart and send your appreciation down, down, down your roots, all the way down to Mother Earth. The appreciation that you have for her sustaining your ability to have an embodied life. Your appreciation for the experiences that you get to have as a human being. Send your appreciation from your heart for all of the water that you get to drink and the food that is provided for you and the shelter that you have. The musical song of the birds, the song of the tide. The beauty of the moving clouds and the sun breaking through at sunset and sunrise. The multicolored flowers that arise during the spring in the fields, the lavenders, the yellows, the oranges. Your appreciation for the scented roses. For lilac and lavender, for peppermint, for sweetgrass. All of these things that touch your senses, the feeling of an animal's fur, the touch of someone's hand upon you, all of these things that Mother Earth Without her, we would not be able to experience. Connect in with the love and appreciation you have for these experiences. And make a space in your heart for Mother Earth to return her love for you. As you send your love down to her, she returns her love back to you, as she has been doing your entire life and every life that you've ever lived. Making a space within your heart. As you inhale, draw in her love and appreciation for you into your heart. And as you exhale, allow your appreciation to flow back into her, creating this beautiful symbiotic breath that reaches into her as she reaches into you. Breathe. And when you're ready, bring your attention into the center of your head. That space right between the ears, between the eyes, and the center of the head. Breathe into the center of the head. That place of the pineal gland sitting in the ventricles of the brain, holding your cerebral spinal fluid, which travels from your brain all the way down your spine. Breathe into this area. Imagine a space within this area. And imagine that growing out of the top of your head are branches, just like a tree, reaching upward and outward into the night sky, reaching upward and outward in all directions. Each branch getting smaller, making smaller branches, and even smaller twigs. And on the ends of those branches and those smaller twigs, the leaves that are so numerous they're like the stars in the night sky, reaching upward and outward into the heavens, stretching, growing further into the fabric of consciousness itself, the fabric of all creation in which these leaves are woven in, as you are woven into all of creation. All of creation cannot be what it is if you were not a participant. Each of us has a very special place in creation, and our story is woven into that tapestry, that fabric of creation. Reach into it. Connect into it. And as you reach into that fabric of creation, allow it to send itself back to you, consciousness, more illumination of consciousness. And from your heart center, send your love and appreciation out those branches, out up into the heavens. Allow it to run into that tapestry of creation of which you're a part. And allow that tapestry to recognize you as the beautiful spiritual being that you are. So make a space in your heart, and as you inhale, draw in the love and the appreciation of creation itself for you. As you exhale and send out your love and appreciation for consciousness, for the creative force of the universe. And when you're ready, start to breathe in both directions simultaneously. As you exhale, Send your love and appreciation down into Mother Earth for the home that she's given you, and up into the fabric of creation for the connection to consciousness, to life itself. And as you inhale, draw back in the appreciation and love that Mother Earth has for you, as well as the consciousness and awareness that creation only is what it is because you exist. Notice that symbiotic relationship headed in both directions simultaneously, holding this in two directions simultaneously. You might see it like a figure eight. These two arcs of breath emerging from and returning to your heart center, filled with love and appreciation. You are standing as a tree, the tree of life. Breathe. Now, when you're ready, I'd like for you to imagine that you are in a jungle, however that looks for you. There are tall trees creating a vast canopy above you. Long vines hang from the trees. And these are interesting trees because they're walking trees. These trees actually don't stay in the same place. If you were to come back a year from now, the tree will have moved a foot or 2 feet in another direction, because these trees are not stuck in one location. The forest changes. This jungle is full of all kinds of inhabitants. You can hear the birds, but there is no path. You know that you need to walk through this jungle. And there are bushes. There are vines. There are tangles of shrubs to get through. It's not easy. And you may notice that you're carrying a heavy backpack because you need to bring things with you. Supplies, things to eat and drink, changes of clothing, maybe personal effects, reading material, jewelry, presents. Sometimes the things that you carry seem like they're too heavy because the jungle is so thick and there's not a clear path, and there are often streams of water that you have to walk through. And sometimes the ground is really soft and muddy and you have to slog through the mud. Sometimes the water comes up to your waist, but you know that you have somewhere you need to get to. As you push through the jungle, moving large plants out of the way, climbing over fallen trees, stopping to listen to strange noises, you wonder, how will I get through this? The jungle is so thick, and it's hard to tell what direction I'm going in. How will I know that I'm headed in the right direction? How will I know I'm making the right decision? How will I know that I'll be safe? These questions all move through your mind as you push through the jungle, moving the plants and the shrubs and the bushes out of the way, looking for new places to have a clearing so that the path that you're on doesn't seem quite so difficult. And up ahead, you see that there may be a break in the jungle. For a moment, there's a sense of relief. This jungle reminds you of times when it was really hard to push through something in your own life. Could have been something in childhood or in your teens, as an adult. Something that felt like you weren't sure you were headed in the right direction. You didn't know if you were making the right decisions, and everything seemed difficult. Whether anybody else understood that difficulty or not, because your difficulty is often your own. Sometimes we make things more difficult than we should. And those moments in your life may come up now. As you continue walking, you've made it to the edge of the jungle. And up ahead, there's a large field. And up above the field, you can see a large mountain peak. You know that this is where you're headed. You're not sure why, but you know that this is where you have to go. But the grasses and other shrubs in this field are so tall, you can just make out the tip of the mountaintop above the grasses. But you know that you must push forward even though there isn't a clear path. And so you begin to walk through the meadow, through this field. The grasses are tall. They're definitely above your head. And you find yourself pushing them out of the way. And beneath you, the ground is uneven. Sometimes you feel like you're falling a little bit to the left or falling a little bit to the right as you continue to push the grasses out of the way so that you can make it through the field. Sometimes the grasses are so tall you can't see the top of the mountain. And every so often you get a glimpse of it once again, and you know that you're headed in the right direction. You continue on, and again you run into a stream, and you have to cross that stream. And the bank of it is very muddy. And you wonder, why do I have to go through this? And you may think back to times where you had a goal set for yourself, but it seemed like everything that it took to reach that goal was one obstacle after another. Thinking back into your own life, moments where you weren't sure that you could make it, you weren't sure where the end was. It felt like this obstacle was insurmountable. And then every so often you'd get a glimpse of your goal, get a glimpse of the top of the mountain, and it would remind you that your effort would be rewarded should you continue on. And so you keep pushing through the field, pushing the grasses out of the way, moving over the uneven ground, stepping over rocks as they come along, even knowing that there's no path. You continue on, and every so often catching a glimpse of the top of the mountain. And finally you reach the edge of this field that you thought might never end. And you can see the top of the mountain, but there's a thick forest in the way, and you have to start climbing. You know where you need to head. You know you're headed in the right direction. So you start the ascent, start climbing up the rocks. Sometimes you'll get a break, and there will be a little path that cuts between the large boulders. Sometimes you find yourself climbing over what seems like a sea of small rocks with nothing to grab onto. And it may remind you of times in your life where it felt like you were taking chances. And they say that without risk, there's no reward. You may think back to times where you wondered whether what you were doing was worth it, whether it was the right direction. You may think back to times where you were exasperated, wanted to give up. As you climb the rocks, sometimes you slip and you lose some traction. Sometimes you find yourself falling back 2 or 3 feet and having to start over. Sometimes your hands are chafe from the dry rocks. It requires work and effort, but you keep reaching, keep climbing, and finally you reach the base of the forest. And the forest is dense, and the hill is steep. And sometimes you can find yourself leaning against a tree with your back against it, just to catch a breath, just to breathe, just to relax. And the tree reminds you that you are connected to the ground, that you are a child of Mother Earth. And sometimes it feels like that tree is reaching and embracing you, holding you. Just enjoy a moment in this forest, out of the sun, in the cool air, and then begin your ascent once again. The ground is a little more loose here in places. It gets kind of steep. It reminds you that along the way through life there are friends, and those friends have always been there to offer solace, to give you a breath, a place to lie your head. These are these trees. You know that you've never been alone. There has always been someone there when you needed them to get through the most difficult part of the ascent, when the road gets steepest, when the mountain feels the hardest to climb, and you keep pushing forward. And as you keep pushing forward, you realize that backpack that you've been carrying with all that stuff, it feels like maybe it's okay to let it go, because this is the steepest part, the hardest part. As you reach the edge of the forest, it's just you and the rocks and the top of the mountain. And you are practically going straight up now. And all of those things that you thought were keeping you safe, all of those things you thought that you would need, you realize that they were actually holding you back. And so you choose to slide the backpack off of your back and set it on the ground. And now you step into a new moment of trust. Trust that you can. Trust that this was designed for you as you were designed for it. There was no way to avoid this coming reality that you have spent your whole life creating. And so you climb. You climb up the mountain, grabbing for rocks, grabbing for footholds, grabbing for plants that might have something you could hold on to, reaching for the top. And it's steep, and there's no clear path. But you do get a sense that somebody's been here before you. Every so often you see a few stacked stones to indicate that others came this way, and they left a marker to show that this could be done. You are one of those that can do it. And your confidence gets a little bigger. Your heart, even though you're out of breath, grows a little bit larger, and you feel that the top of the mountain is closer and closer. You know that you are ready to receive that which you never knew you could have, because you were willing to leave behind what needed to be left behind, willing to push through what wanted to hold you back, willing to see where you couldn't see, willing to accept help when you needed it, and willing to leave behind what was holding you back. Here you are. You've reached the top of the mountain, and now you can stop just for a moment and look around. Look at the forest beneath you, the meadow beneath you, the jungle beneath you. You can see your entire life now from this point of view. All of the things that you have encountered and overcome in your life have made you the person that you are. And you listen and you hear the sound of an eagle. The eagle screeches above, and you look and you wonder at, you must be hundreds if not thousands of miles up at the top of this mountain, and still this eagle is twice as high as you, and it's circling over you, and it's a message. It's a message from Spirit that you are open to receiving. Yes, you have done exactly what you needed to do to open your heart, to open your mind, to open your body, to receive the insight that you have needed, because this is just the beginning of the next step of your journey. Breathe.